Welcome to the video, everybody. Today's episode is a little different. We've done episodes like this in the past and people have really liked them, but today we're doing sort of a crossover episode with another show that I think you will like if you like our show. So while this technically is an interview with a guest on our show, these episodes tend to be more just a hangout with a show that's like ours that also talks about Jiu Jitsu, and we're just going to be sort of chatting. I'm going to be hanging out today with Chris from the BJJ Power Hour. They do interviews with athletes at all levels and all stages of their jiu-jitsu journey, and you can find their show on any of the normal sources you would find a podcast. I'm excited to talk about getting started in jiu-jitsu, talking to famous athletes on the podcast, and what we're working on now in our games. So let's get right into it. Please welcome to the show Chris Waters from the BJJ Power Hour. I feel bad though because you sent me a message and it went to my message request folder, so I didn't respond to you for a week because I had no idea the message was there. So I felt bad once I finally got to you and I finally saw it.
The fact that you saw it and responded within a week, I heard I can't remember the guy that co-hosts.
Mike, my buddy Mike.
Mike, that's his name. So I heard he's a fan of Orlando Sanchez.
Yeah, so you sent me a direct message and shot in the dark. Let's see if we can do a show together. We did the same thing. I tagged Orlando Sanchez. If you're following us on Instagram at @that_jiu-jitsu_podcast, we tagged Orlando Sanchez and he sent me a message back and I'm like, bro, why is Orlando Sanchez talking to me because I have a podcast? It's fucking wild, dude. This is the coolest thing about jiu-jitsu and podcasts is you get to talk to people who why are these people talking to me?
Yeah.
Who am I?
Well, and that's one thing. Orlando's actually done the show, and whenever I heard you guys talking about that, I was listening to your latest episode today in the car. Actually, I was driving for work, and I was like, "Oh, well, dude, I can just I'm gonna have Justin on tonight. I'll just hit up Orlando and have him get with him or my, and that is one of the beautiful things of jiu-jitsu because that's how me and Orlando met. I saw, because dude, I started this thing in 2017. I'm a purple belt now. I was a white belt when I started. And the whole reason I started this podcast was because I tore my labrum and my ACL at the same time. And I was sitting in bed and I was just a few months into jiu-jitsu and I was super depressed. And my wife was like, well, she was my girlfriend at the time. She goes, well, you need to start that podcast you've been talking about because, you're not doing anything. You need to do this. And I was like, okay. And part of the reason I talked about doing it was because all my friends who were blue belts and a couple guys that had either just gotten their purple belt, or close to their purple belt stopped showing up. And I was like, dude, I was super bummed out. Right. I was like, man, these guys have helped me out. And I love seeing them when I come to class and they're not showing up anymore. So maybe if there was a podcast, just talking to different practitioners, hearing their stories, having conversations, maybe they'll enjoy it and they'll decide, hey, I'm going to go to class tonight, or I'm not going to stop doing jiu-jitsu just purely off the community aspect of things. And that's kind of why this whole thing started. And so to see people Orlando Sanchez or Roberto Jimenez or Higan Machado, I've had him on the show.
It's
we talk I have Higan texts me and he's like, hey brother, just seeing how you're doing, haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah.
What?
Well, first of all, if you get us in connection with Orlando Sanchez, you'd be an absolute legend. And I think Mike might fly down to wherever you are just to give you a hug so he can get a chance to talk to Orlando Sanchez. But I tell everyone that I'm best friends with Lachlan Giles, even though I think he would probably disagree with that. But
and listen, it doesn't matter. You're friends.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the beauty of the community, right? I don't know. And look, man, I've been around the motorcycle club community. I've been around the tattoo community. I've been around the punk rock community. Jiu-jitsu is one of the few communities where you can be involved. I feel like white belt's kind of like a prospecting period, right? Like
Right.
you're a purple or brown belt or black belt, like unless you're the instructor, you're not taking a lot of time to learn the white belts' names, right? And
Yeah.
people have different opinions on that, whatever. And that you can have your opinion, good or bad. That's the reality of it right now, right? And then probably it's not until maybe you get like your third stripe on your white belt, fourth stripe on your white belt, people start learning your name. They start to kind of maybe help you out at open mats with like holes in your game and this, that, and the other. They start having conversations with you. And then they start to pull you into this community. At least that was my experience, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And then you see, like, once you're in, it's like you're in. And for like us, for example, right? We've never met each other, like never in person, you know, but we're sitting here having a conversation, hopefully going to be about an hour long, about something that we've both experienced very similarly, two different backgrounds with we live in two different states, like, with two different lives, like, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, for sure.
after this conversation, if we are to ever run into each other somewhere out at like a IBJJF or a new breed tournament or at, some seminar or whatever, we have a connection. Like I was talking with my friends the other day, and we were just talking about like the beauty of jiu-jitsu. Like he was talking about how he was in a bar in Nashville and he saw a guy with a Gracie Baja shirt on. And we train at an alliance school. And he said, 10, 15 years ago, we probably would have fought each other in the bar.
Yeah, you got to go fight that guy. Yeah.
He said, but this was 3 years ago. And I saw his Gracie Baja shirt and I tapped him on the shoulder. He saw my ears and we instantly had a connection and we hugged and we bought each other drinks and we hung out all night.
Yeah.
All because of this one thing. And like, for me, dude, that's what's kept me in. Is just the sense of not just of community, but of the fact that these people really care about me. Like we're going through a struggle,
Right.
right? Like some people pick up jujitsu really well, and I can't explain it. Like there are 3 and 4 stripe white belts out there that are doing things that I wasn't doing until I was a 2 or 3 stripe blue belt. Like they just can comprehend their body. They have really good body awareness, and I don't have that. But yet we all have the same struggle. You see what I'm saying? Like,
For sure. Everyone's you're all sort of in this same thing of we're like you said on one of your shows recently, like we're practicing murdering each other. You know what I mean? Like that when you go through that with other people, like yeah, we do it for fun, and there's people who are professional jiu-jitsu athletes and there's people who are hobbyists who train once a week, but on the mat you're both doing the same things. It might be at different levels and it might be at different skill levels and it might be at different intensities, but the one thing about jiu-jitsu that I think is unlike any other sport is jiu-jitsu is still a sport where if you want to train with literally the best people in the world, you can do it. Like
yeah,
you can go to the B team and roll with Craig Jones and Nicky Ryan and Nicky Rod. If you like playing basketball, you can't show up to the I think it's what is it, the crypto arena now or whatever they call it,
yeah,
and
well,
play
yeah,
with LeBron James.
yeah,
You can't just like shoot free throws with LeBron James for fun. Like you the divide between the people who really like jiu-jitsu and train jiu-jitsu and the people who are professional jiu-jitsu athletes, there's a divide in terms of skill, but there's not a divide in terms of you can't connect with that person. You can't share
yeah.
experiences with that person. And I think it's different than any other sport that I've
Any
ever
other sport,
done.
100%. Like, well, dude, and so I lost like 140 something pounds in 11 months, right? Um,
That's like almost a whole person.
yeah, literally, like I lost a teenager. Okay, and so before this, you know, I was I was a white belt. I was like 300 something pounds. I've been doing this podcast for like maybe 6 months. And Gibson Side down in Columbia, South Carolina was having a Gordon Ryan seminar. And I didn't have the money to go. He goes, "Hey, man, Gibson became a friend of mine." And he was like, "Look, I can't let you actively participate in the seminar, but I'll let you come hang out. We're doing a Gibson Side Invitational. You can sit at the commentator booth. You can meet Ryan from, oh my goodness, I'm blanking. This is what happens when I've been up all day. He's got like the biggest Jiu Jitsu podcast out there outside of Ryan Ford is his name. And I can't, but so anyways, he's probably going to kill me. But so I got to hang out with him, and I got to hang out with a couple other guys. And afterwards, I actually got to meet Gordon Ryan. And I was like, "Hey, man, I have a podcast. It's called the BJJ Power Hour. Listen, if I would love to have you on, but if not, if you just listen to it." And he said, "Look, I don't do podcasts. I just don't have the time, but I love listening to podcasts." So his girlfriend, she was like, "Oh, you do a podcast, da, 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 da." And right there, they subscribed. Like in front of me, she was like, "This is it. This is the one." I was like, "Yeah." She hit the subscribe button. Now, if they've listened to one episode or every episode, or if they did, I tell people Gordon Ryan subscribe to the podcast. Like,
I'm going to assume that Gordon Ryan is listening right now, so I better watch what I say because the man could kill me with one finger. But I'm going to assume that he's out there listening right now.
But I mean, it's amazing to me that we have such access to like our idols, right? Like to the people that we look up to. Now, and you're right. No other sport, you can't do that in football, you can't do that in basketball, you can't do that in hockey. You can't do that in MMA. Like, I know, like I personally know Stephen Thompson, right? Like he's local guy here. I've been to his gym several times. He's a super nice guy. I'm really good friends with like one of his main sparring partners or former main sparring partners. Like I've had his dad on the podcast, but it's even hard to get access to him at times,
like it's just a different level. It's just a different sport.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's like the beauty of jiu-jitsu, like outside of literally simulating murder and having trust.
Yeah.
I talked about that on another episode, was like the amount of trust that we build with other people I think that's part of why the community is as strong as it is.
When you're training, like you talk about trust, like if you tap, right, you're in a choke and you tap, you basically have to trust that person is not going to kill you, because if you tap, that means that you can't escape from what they're doing. And if they just hold on to it, then you could be dead in a few minutes. So it's like, yeah, you know every single time you're on the mat, you're going to tap. But every time you tap to a person who's choking you, it's an admission that you could have ended my life if you wanted to, and I'm hopefully going to try to end yours shortly. So yeah, there's a big element of trust there when you have to literally let go so someone doesn't die. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's like, and I think that's why the community is as strong as it is. Because like you can have a purple belt competitor, right? And a purple belt hobbyist have a 6-minute match. And that hobbyist in the back of his mind, and I'm speaking as a purple belt hobbyist, in the back of my mind, when I go up against guys like, George Stevens or, Phil Painter or, whoever, Avery Norris or, guys that are full-time competitors, right? That are blue and purple belts, and they're just savages. Like they've been doing this for years. Okay. Ethan Daly's another guy from Myrtle Beach. But anyways, when I go up against these guys, I feel like I have nothing to offer them. I feel like I am literally their, just their choking dummy. I'm their grappling dummy for this 6 minutes, but I give them everything I got. And at the end, there's this mutual respect. to where they're like, hey man, in their mind, when we're rolling, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get murdered. I don't have anything to offer them. And then when we're done, they're like, bro, I really had to work to pass your guard that time. Like before, it was normal. I could do whatever I wanted, but you're really making me work. You're getting good. Or, hey, when you dig that lasso hook, if you try to dig it just a little bit deeper and then shift your hips the opposite way, you're going to off balance me a little bit easier. And it's like, oh, okay. And there's like this exchange of like,
Yeah.
I want you to get better so that I can get better. Like, if
Right.
I'm going to
Right.
give you all the answers to the test, and then we're going to come back in 2 weeks and we're going to take the same test, but I'm going to switch the questions around a little bit. You have all the
Right.
answers.
Right. Right.
Like,
Well, that's why I never understood why people are like resistant to like helping white belts or helping blue belts. When if you want to get better as a higher belt, you need the lower belts to get better too, so that they push you to get better. Like, you can't get better if the people around you aren't getting better. So it's like you said, I'm going to show you all of my tricks because I want them to be my tricks. So I need you to figure out how to beat my tricks so that I can find new ways to make my tricks still work. And you can't just assume that people are going to get better just by being there. So I love coaching. I love helping white belts and blue belts learn technique, partially because I really enjoy seeing them get better for their own benefit, but partially for my benefit too. I want them to get better at jiu-jitsu so that I can get better off of them, kind of thing.
no, no, absolutely. And like, so I'm new to teaching. Like, I got my purple belt at the end of October. The day before I got my purple belt, I got a so like in Alliance, we have 4 levels of certification for teachers, right? So like a level 1 cert is like, hey, you're a purple belt and like you can teach people that have never done jujitsu. Like you can show them the basics of self-defense and you can teach a beginner class. And so like I've just got that certification since like the end of October, right? So I'm only November, December, so like 3 months into just now getting to teach, and I mostly just teach like there's introduction lessons. But man, my love for I didn't think it was possible for me to love jujitsu more than I did when I was like a 6 month white belt, and I turned all my regular clothes in for like Amazon jujitsu t-shirts.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like that whole
Just wearing rash guards like John Danaher to dinner.
oh yeah, and the fanny pack, with like finger tape, inhaler, like everything. I like just all right there. Walking around with like Joe Rogan experience, everything. Like I never thought I could love jujitsu more than that. And then I started teaching, and just being able to break down technique and watching people have the same realizations that I had. Like I can remember when like I would finally understand a move, or I would understand the concept of like, okay, I have to position my body here in order to do XYZ. Like I can remember when those things started making sense, and then I would execute them, and I would hear Hoffa or Logan or one of the teachers go, "Oh, good job, Chris." Like I can remember like
Yeah, yeah.
so for me to be able to give that to somebody else, you can
Right, right.
watch somebody come in super shy, either they've like been through some kind of trauma, or you know, they want to learn self-defense, or a list of reasons, right? Ex-football player, ex-military, whatever, right? And they come in and you say, hey man, good job. And like that guilt of confidence comes over them, like, oh, okay, I'm not a complete idiot. Like
Right, right, right.
to
Right.
be able to pass that on to somebody has made me fall more in love with jujitsu than I ever thought I could. And it's challenged me more too. Cause like now I have to break everything down and I have to make someone understand it.
You have to really analyze how much do I know about this technique and how can I convey what I know about it in a way that makes sense. So it really makes you like self-aware of every little thing that you do. So if when you're teaching something, every time you teach it, like you doing that thing gets a little bit better too, I think, because there's more detail that you realize like, oh yeah, I do this and I didn't notice that I did it, but now I need to tell them to do it. So now I'm aware that I do it too. And that's a new detail I've learned. So I love teaching, man. I think it definitely improves your game. I think the more you do it, the more you're going to see like, oh yeah, that does make more sense now. I thought I knew, but now I know even more.
Yeah, I should grab it this way and not that way. Oh, okay.
Like the first question I always ask is, how did you find jujitsu? Because it's such a weird sport. How did you get into it?
Yeah. Well, so like I said, my listeners have heard this a million times. So fast forward if you want to, and if not, you can strap in again because it's going to be fun. So I was, like I said, I was overweight. I've been overweight most of my life. Especially most of my adult life is when I really, really started gaining weight. I was 18 years old. My best friend was in the Army. Several of my friends had gone off and deployed. And so I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Because when you're, 17-year-old, 18-year-old screw up and you got your GED from the Department of Juvenile Corrections and, you're just a knucklehead your whole life and you come from nothing. That's what you do. You either get a job or you join the military. And so
it's a way out, right? It's a way out of the situation you don't want to be in.
yeah. And so I tried joining the military and I lost a bunch of weight and I jumped through all these hoops and man, I tried for a long time, several years, to join up. And it just never played out. And so I remember the last time I left MEPS, I was eating healthy. I was doing everything right. And the last time I left, the last time they rejected me for good, I stopped by McDonald's and I ordered 2 Big Macs, a large Coke, 2 apple pies, and a large fry. And I said, I'm never working out again. I'm never eating healthy again. I'm done with it all. And so for years, that's how I ate. And I never exercised or anything. So, of course, I blew up. I gained weight. And anyways, fast forward to November of 2016, I was dating a young lady. And it was a horrible relationship. And I fought a lot when I was a teenager. And I was a pretty rough kid. And all this angst and all this stuff that I carried around for a long time, all of a sudden I started feeling it well up in me again. Like I started feeling like, God, I just want to freaking punch somebody in the face. Like I just felt really angry, And so I pull into a UFC gym at 6:00 on a Tuesday night. And I walked to the front desk and I was like, hey, my name's Chris and I'm here to fight. And she looked at me and she said, I'm sorry. I was like, I'm here to fight. She goes, okay. Do you train? I said, train? I've been stabbed 7 times. I don't need to train. And she kind of looked at me like, stabbed 7? No, that's why you need training. What? What are you talking?
Yeah, they're not supposed to actually stab you. You're supposed to like avoid that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to like get stabbed. Like that's not But she said, "Okay, have you ever heard of Jiu Jitsu?" And I was like, "No." And she walks me upstairs where these guys are training. They maul me for an hour, and then they all give me a hug afterwards. And they were like, "Hey, man, we'll see you Thursday." Now, maybe they wanted a new choking dummy to prove that their jiu-jitsu was good. I don't know. But the point is they wanted me. And so I showed up there from November of 16 until February of 17. And my church schedule had changed and my work schedule had changed. And I couldn't go on Tuesday and Thursday nights anymore. And I didn't know there were jiu-jitsu schools. I thought you had to go to a UFC gym because UFC's fighting, right, to learn like not Karate Kid martial arts, like to learn legit stuff. And so, dude, I was bawling, crying, and I was telling the jiu-jitsu coach, I was like, man, I can't do jiu-jitsu anymore. My schedule's changed. Oh, and he goes, go to a jiu-jitsu school. And I was like, what? What's that?
Yeah.
And he's like, there's one 5 minutes down the road, bro. Go speak to Hoffa, go hang out with these guys. And I was like, there's a place that only teaches jujitsu all the time. And he's like, yeah, that's
That's
all.
all
Like
they do.
I
That's the
couldn't
only thing they do.
believe like that was like, oh, this is amazing. And so I've been with Rafael Hassando and Alliance Jiu Jitsu since February 2017. And I mean,
Good, man.
dude,
Nice.
yeah,
Good
it's
for you. Good for you for sticking with it, dude. Because like a lot of people come in that first day and get mauled by those dudes, and they don't ask to come back, and they don't. They like they want to move on to something else. They realize jujitsu is not for them.
dude, it
So
was
anyone who sticks with it to a purple belt is, if you're at purple belt, you're in it for the long haul at this point. Plenty of people get the blue belt and quit. I mean, how many memes have you seen about blue belts quitting? But you get the purple belt, you're in it for
yeah.
the
Well,
haul.
and I mean, dude, it was like I said, it was the first time where like I don't know, it was real weird for me because like man, I grew up pretty rough and like I had to always have like my guard up, and always had to look tough, and I thought I had to be, whatever this guy. And for the first time in my life, I was completely exposed. I had no, everybody in that room knew that I was the softest guy there. And yet they all still wanted me around. Never experienced that level of authenticity where like everybody knew, like you, you physically have no power or ability here. You cannot protect yourself. You can't, it doesn't matter what you say or what you think you're useless because of your knowledge, right? Because you have zero
Yeah,
knowledge to
yeah.
apply. Excuse me. And so they see this, and instead of going, hey, man, maybe you should take the women's kickboxing class downstairs, they go, hey,
Right.
come back. We want to teach you. And to be accepted, to be the most vulnerable I've ever been, and to be completely accepted at that same intersection, right, was like this revelation that I never thought I would have outside of my spiritual life. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but like,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, dude,
it's,
for sure.
it was a very beautiful moment. And then to go to a different school, to find out there's a different school, number one, then number two, to go to that school and for those people to treat me the exact same way was like, it was mind blowing to me. You know, we talk about, be nice to white belts and be nice to these people. And I know I mentioned earlier, like color belts don't know your name till you get a few stripes on your belt. And that's true. But even if you don't know their names, be nice to them because
Yeah, yeah.
don't,
Don't beat them up.
yeah,
Don't beat
don't
them
beat
up
them
too
up too
bad.
bad. And if you do beat them up too bad, explain like, hey, the reason I smashed you into the ground is because you started grabbing on my feet and you don't do that
Yeah.
because you can hurt me. Okay. We're learning
Yeah,
lessons
right.
here. This is part of being a family. We learn lessons. And so, like, excuse me, it's those white belts, like, even if you don't take the time to know their name, treat them with dignity because if I didn't have like the Russell Hughes and the Hoffas and the Richards and the David Closes and the people that surrounded me when I first started and like told me good job or told me, hey, jujitsu is a language and you don't know anything, don't ever talk to me again. Like you had to have
Yeah.
that bullying
Yeah.
and you had to have that, like you have to have the family mix, right? You got to have the
Right.
uncle who's going
Right.
to give you the tough love and tell you the truth. And then you got to have like the moms and the older brothers and the dad. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to have that dynamic
Yeah.
to, I don't necessarily be inviting, but that's what makes it work, right? Like,
Right. Right. You need those perspectives. You need that different approach, and that's one thing that I think people don't seek out like more than one opinion, or they have like their one instructor and they look at one thing and like sometimes you need like a different lens to see your game, to see what you need, like not just like technique, not just your ability on the mat, but like people to look at what you need in your life and jiu-jitsu, not jiu-jitsu, and sort of help in that process where if you're only getting input and it's only one bullying mentality and there's no other side that's reminding you every once in a while like you don't suck at everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Only having one is not good. But if you only have one side that says you don't suck, you're pretty good, and no one ever hammers you into the ground,
Yeah.
that's also
Not the
not the
best.
best. So you need that balance of like the tough
Yeah.
love and the reminder that you're
Yeah.
not a
Well,
terrible
just like,
person.
on the last episode of your podcast, you guys were talking about flow rolling. And I was just getting tickled because like I love the fact that you were like, come to my gym, nay, you will find. Like, probably not going to happen.
Not
When we walk in the door, we walk in the door to train. And I love that because like look, it might sound, I don't know if it sounds egotistical. I don't know what it sounds like, but it's the truth. Okay. I'm very blessed to be a part of one of the hardest rooms in the state of South Carolina. And I can say that with all confidence. Like it's a hard room. Like there's blue belts in there that give normal purple belts problems. Like it's a legit room, you know? And I'm lucky enough to be mediocre in that room. Like, so with that said, you guys were talking about flow rolling and all this stuff. And you hit on some points on this last episode where you were like, flow rolling for warm up. Like I can kind of see that. And, it doesn't really make sense because if you can hit it in a flow roll, you should be able to take those chances in a regular roll and this, that, and the other. For me, it forces me to slow down and it forces me to look at my positioning, which then forces me to think 2 or 3 steps ahead. So I used to be someone that hated it, right? Like I was like, float, oh, bro, come on. You mean I'm going to get you in an armbar and I'm not going to execute the armbar. I'm just going to let go and then let you defend and let you. It didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Like I was like, this, like, what do you mean? But the more I understood, like, okay, this is about body awareness and understanding that I want my body to go A, B, and C. I get to A, then I get to B. You do something to stop C, that's fine. I now have an A over here. And it allows me to slow down to think, almost like drilling, but instead of drilling a specific chain of like link 1, link 2, link 3, it gives me the whole rope.
You're sort of seeing it like as it's playing out.
Exactly. And like, that's one of the reasons I started to fall in love with it. And so like at an open mat, I'll make sure to take like 1 round. Like it might be in the middle of the day. It might be at the end of the day. Hardly ever is it at the beginning of open mat because I've drank my pre-workout. I've listened.
You're ready to go. Ready to run through the wall.
Yeah. Like blasted hate breed on the way over there or something. So I can't, no flow rolling then. But like at some point I'll take 6 minutes and I'll go, all right, I'm like, hey man, let's just flow. Let's just work through some positions and let's see where we end up. And if you see me like have that look on my face, like I'm not computing anything, smoke's coming out of the ears.
Yeah.
Slow me down and tell me where to go. And dude, that has improved maybe not my quote game, but my ability to look at the overall picture and not panic.
Right.
Always been something I've struggled with is like claustrophobia and panicking. Sorry, man, I'm getting over we've been having some nasty weather down here and I'm getting over this like.
Yeah, you guys aren't used to the cold, right? You got cold down there that you're not used to?
Yeah, dude, no way.
You got to come to the Northeast where it was like, I think it was like 8 degrees outside yesterday.
8 degrees would keep me inside with 6 layers of clothes on and my gear. No way, bro. I couldn't. I can't. If it gets below 40, I get nervous.
I told you I went to school in Orlando, so it was always people walking around. I got down to like 65. They're wearing like
Oh
parkas
yeah,
and UGG boots. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
walking around with shorts and a t-shirt on because I come from Pennsylvania, so it's cold. It's 65, and that's not cold to us. But I'm glad that you still were willing to do an episode together after I bashed flow rolls when you you were
No,
such
it's
a
okay,
fan.
dude. I loved it because I was like, okay. I was like, because I saw the title and I was like, this probably ain't gonna go well. And so I
See, that's why
listened.
you need the controversial title. You pull
Yeah,
them in, you get
and
the
that's what you
controversial
did. You hooked
title.
me. You got me fishing, and I was like, yeah, I'll buy. I'll buy. Okay, let's hear this. And then like I heard Orlando Sanchez, and I was like, okay, all right. There's some, and then I heard the discussion, and I was like, this is interesting because I didn't look at it as a
Hmm.
warm up or as I never heard someone go, well, I can hit this and take chances in a flow road that I can't take. No, I never heard those things. And so I was like, well, okay, if this is what people are saying, and this is the discussions I'm hearing around it, I would feel the exact same way. Like,
Right.
hey man, toughen up, buttercup. Like, you know, let's calm down. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
and not use this as an excuse to get to positions that you don't have the ability to get to in the time of execution.
Right.
Like the only way you're going to get better at double legs is continuing to drill double legs and then hit them in real time. That's how you're going to get better. Like
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
else in jiu-jitsu. So don't use this flow roll as a crutch to say, well, I can only do it when I do this. If that's the case of flow rolling, then 100% I don't like it. But I do like the idea of being able to slow my spastic brain down for 6 minutes to go, okay, we're going to zoom out and we're going to look at everything. And this time, when you go to pass this guard, you're not going to put your hand right there. Because if you do
Right. 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 Right.
real time, then your arm's going to be on his mantle and you're going to know why.
Well, and that's what I always try to. I think this comes from teaching. I always try to when we do our show, and we try to have fun with our show. But I'm also very aware that because I like or don't like something, or because Mike likes or doesn't like something, I think we said it in the last episode. Like, who am I to tell a person what to do or what not to do?
100%.
And when you're teaching a technique, there's plenty of times where it's like, okay, these are the steps to the technique. But rather than thinking about like the steps to the technique, like something I got from Lachlan Giles was thinking about the concept and the detail and what do I want people to come away from with understanding. And when we're doing the podcast and we're talking about show techniques or matches or fights or anything we talk about in the show, I always try to be aware when we're doing the show that this is just what I think about it. I'm not the person to be end all be all.
Yeah.
If someone, I don't like playing mount. Like I have a good mount. I think I have good mount maintenance, but I just don't enjoy attacking from there. I'm not the authority to say no one should go to mount and you shouldn't have a mount mount shouldn't be part of your game and you shouldn't worry about mount attacks. There's people who love mount and I hate it. I love heel hooking people. Some people don't like heel hooking people. Who am I to say, you know what, the only subs you guys should work on are inside heel hooks. You know what I mean? And I think that that's a lesson that I think a lot of people can learn from jiu-jitsu, in that like we can have a different opinion about a thing. That's okay, because you have a jiu-jitsu game and I have a jiu-jitsu game, and you have a preferred training method and I have a preferred training method. And you know what's okay in the world? If they don't overlap. Like, it's all right if we don't
What?
agree on that. You know what I mean? And
You mean
I
it's
think
okay for
that's
two people to not agree about something and still be friends and still, that's, oh my gosh, you're gonna
yeah,
get us canceled, bro. That's
right.
careful.
But
That's
and again, like we talked about, like perspective, like your perspective of it forces you to slow down in a flow roll and it forces you to see things different. Hadn't heard that perspective before. makes sense to me more. Like, I already knew people liked flow rolls, and that's a reason that I probably wouldn't have thought. Maybe that's why people like flow rolls. So the ability to talk about jiu-jitsu because we like jiu-jitsu and like uncover a different perspective, I still probably won't flow roll, but I understand why you do more. I get it more.
Yeah.
And even before your perspective, I wouldn't be like, oh, Chris flow roll, so he's not coming on my show anymore because he's a flow. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. You said
it's what it is. If you like it, you like it.
Dude, you ended. I can't remember the exact word. It was something like, "Don't like stop flow rolling, you babies," or something like that. Like, and I just died laughing because I was like, well. I am a child. So yeah.
Listen, podcasting 101 is you want to do whatever you can to alienate half of your audience at least, and make sure that at least half of them are mad all the time. So
they continue to tune in.
Just for the listeners of my show, let them know where they can find you and sponsors and all that good stuff.
For sure. Yeah. So you can find me the BJJ Power Hour on Instagram, on Facebook. Or my personal Instagram account, Chris the Tattooed Gent. You can go to the BJJPowerHour.com. That's our merch store. We have all of our t-shirts, sweaters, coffee mugs, stickers, everything. We are also literally anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find the BJJ Power Hour. Shasta Kimono Company. They have been a sponsor from day one. They do kind of what'd you say is epic rolls?
Yep.
So they're very similar to them. They have an amazing no gi stuff. They just come out with a new or they're coming out with a new line of gear in the next couple months that I'm super stoked about. You can use shasta.world is their website, CHASTA, and BJJ Power for 10% off anything in the store. Jiu Jitsu Soap Company. They do bath bombs, they do soaps, they do everything. It's all handmade. I
use their stuff. I have their stuff.
Yeah, so
I use their stuff.
Dude, they're legit. Like, so if you use the promo code BJJ Power at their website, 10% off too. And then Trap BJJ, it's TRAPP BJJ. They're like an instructional website, but it's not just like how BJJ Fanatics just has instructionals. It's instructionals, but it's also like seminars. And then like
okay, cool.
Technique breakdown videos and like all like, dude, a bunch of cool stuff and world-class guys too. And so if you go to Trap BJJ, that's TRAPP BJJ.com, and the promo code is BJJ Power 50. They're giving everybody that puts that promo code in half off their first year subscription.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So like, and dude, it's over 100 hours of content. Like, you can just go in there and, I mean, dude, they're adding stuff all the time. Justin, thank you again, bro, so much. It means the world. I appreciate it so much. And for everybody on our podcast, keep listening, keep subscribing, keep supporting. And remember, everything else is just dessert. We're out.
Thanks, Chris, man. I appreciate it, dude. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Thank you very much to Chris from the BJJ Power Hour for coming on and hanging out for a little bit. Make sure you check out their show anywhere that you get your podcasts. If you want to watch another video, I think one of these right here would be good for you. And I'm not just saying that because I made them. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.